I would love to hear, your age, like where do you live, anything about your current situation that you think might be, powerful for you to share about who you
Yeah. So I'm 30 years old. I'm 30 years and like 2 weeks old, fresh into a new decade, new era. Um, I live in Portland, Oregon. I am a music producer and DJ, and this is my mission. This is the calling. This is what I've. It's just so cool to feel it and to be stepping into it now when like I've known it for at least a decade. Like I've known it and I've just been in the fear of like not stepping into it for a long time. And
Mm.
that's something that I was able to clean up the things around that for myself in like all of this process to now see it and choose it and be in the fear of it all still. But it's almost like I can't I can't afford not to anymore for my life.
Love that. Awesome. Awesome. So, yeah. So, well, I guess what had you tried before? Because you have a background in leadership development and emotional intelligence and probably other things too. So, what had you tried in the past before getting into sacred geometry and the work in Liberate Me?
Yeah, I did. So I did leadership trainings through Next Level, and I did a bunch. Like it was kind of like like a full year. No, maybe like 6 months in like, oh my God, I can't remember the first one, but like the first one, then breakthrough, then VIP like experience, and just really like with the intention of like here are these resistances, like just move past them, see what comes up. And so
So
I've,
let's just to so that because the audience doesn't necessarily
yeah.
know what next level is. So next level is where you just tell them in a nut.
Yeah, it's like a leadership training. And then like, I guess like what that would mean to me is like, it's more about like how you show up in the world and how you choose to show up and influence others, not from a place of trying to control, but like understanding people and being able to like communicate in different ways and like connect with people in a way where you can empower them.
Cool. Love that.
And so, like those first 6 months, then I did like another 6 months. I think I did like 2 years worth or close to 2 years worth of trainings through Next Level. And yeah, I mean, the uncomfortability I felt was wild. And it just was all these opportunities to like kind of almost like not care, push through because something else is more important. And then I've done two retreats and like a bunch of meditations, like daily practices through like Dr. Joe Dispenza. And all of that about like shifting the way you're choosing to see the world and perspective, and that like mind over matter, basically, right? Like your mind creates your reality.
Yeah. And what
And
did what did you find in those methodologies that didn't perhaps work? Or what worked for you and what did not work?
yeah,
Those methodologies.
in Next Level and like the leadership training, what worked was like being in the container a lot. But that's almost also what didn't work, where it was a container and it felt like here in this container it works, but the moment it's done, there's just like it's almost aimless, right? It's almost like, well, where do I go from here? How do I apply it into my life? And very similar with Dr. Joe Dispenza, it's like you go to the retreats and for like a week you're like tapping into this like surreal collective energy of everyone. Like I mean, I saw people in wheelchairs like stand up and walk, and I heard like firsthand story of like a woman's tinnitus of like her whole life like disappearing. Like it's just, it's definitely like looking back at it, it's these are things that work, but it's then like there was just something missing. There was something missing where it's like in the container it feels really good, but then when you go back to life to like the stressors of life, of like the everyday, and you almost remember how you feel around those stressors or something like that. That like, oh, when I get anxious around work, like these are the things, this is who I am, or right, and you just and there's just like the adaptation of that, the adoption of that, where like now through like Liberate Me and in this, I mean it's actively navigating the stressors of life and like going in deeper with myself to like create that sort of intimacy of like, hey, these things are coming up and right now and I need to clean them up.
Super powerful. I love that. I love that. So, uh, let's hear a little bit about, why did you find yourself needing this? What was the journey to sacred geometry? How did that unfold for you?
Yeah, I think this is a very like human thing of like there's almost like this search or desire for like something more, right? There's like something I've had this feeling that there's like something missing, like I'm close to something, but it just like it hasn't hit. And this experience is what's given me the most, it like fills that cup the most for me,
Awesome.
where I almost felt really desperate. Like I just it's I remember like those moments of life and feeling just like, God, like I feel like I'm doing what I'm being told I'm supposed to be doing,
Mm,
but like my heart and my soul are just like not happy. And
mm,
like there's something deeper that like I just can't tap into, but I know it's there and like it hurts to like not tap into that anymore.
mm,
Like I'm sick of it. Like I can't not anymore.
mm.
Um, and I got really lucky because some of my friends, it just kind of started to like this experience happened like through you and through like Kellyanna and Jeremy, and I like being around Kellyanna and Jeremy and hearing from them. Like I remember like speaking to Kellyanna about it and just like knowing like when she was telling me about all of it, I felt so much fear, but it was one of those like I knew like I know this fear is because like it's gonna bring down the walls, right? Like it's not like fear for it's like that, the parts that want to like stay in comfort knew that like everything was gonna come down so that a cathedral could be built essentially, right? Like something different. Yeah.
Incredible. I love that. I love hearing that. Awesome. Cool. So what is your experience around sacred geometry? Like what makes it unique? What can you share about your experience?
Yeah. I think what makes it the most unique that I really love this, it's like it's not linear, right? It's we're taught a lot in like the world right now that like you take an action towards a thing in a certain way and that will yield a very specific result, right? And it's just like creation through control almost versus like sacred geometry for me is being able to like see where the energy is, lean into it, and trust that like what is going to come through is not what I think I need or what I think I want, but what it actually needs to come through to like kind of bring alive what I've made clear to be like my desire and my mission. And yeah, and I think what's really cool about that also is that it's not, it doesn't feel just good all of the time, right? And I think that's something that like a lot of people avoid, where like if something doesn't feel only good, then like it's not right or it's not for me. Where like I think the best way I've heard it put is like creation happens through like a lot of discomfort also. And the simplest way to say that is like, look at the process of like pregnancy and birth, right? Like, pregnancy is like 9, 10 months of like uncomfortability and just all like, you're everywhere, right? Like, like anything can happen at any moment that can just trigger, activate, whatever. And then like at the very, very end of that creation process, it's like pain and like whatever emotions come through with that, but then you created life. And then right, so it's like in its most natural form, like creation isn't easy and soft and comfortable. Um,
And it's
and
not
also,
control.
yes, it's not control. Yeah, and it's like very unknown also, right? Like it's almost just like, hey, I'm gonna open the doors for something to come through, and I don't even know what's gonna come through, but yeah, it's just always really awesome. Every time something comes through for me, I'm just like, oh, that's how it happened. Okay, I see you.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's so true, isn't it? It's like, yeah, we're not in control, but at the same time, we have set a powerful intention, and our sacred geometry knows us better than anyone else, right? And it's like we're always being prepared for the next thing, the next evolution, which is most of the time, not all the time, often uncomfortable.
Yeah,
But then you expand to that version of you and you're like, oh, okay, like yes, I can handle that, right? Like I am that version of myself now. I can handle being the DJ that's up on stage with 10,000 people here to listen to my set. Whereas,
yeah,
me sitting on my couch making the declaration is like not that version.
yeah, exactly. Right, and it's like it needs like it's served best with like some kind of direction and intention that way, right? But beyond that, it's just like I remember one of the ways that it clicked for me the best was, like from point A to point B, like it's not just A to B like straight line and there's like all these like very clear markers to get to. Like you might hit like point like W and point X and you might actually feel like you went back like 2 or 3 times. But when you get to point B and you look back, you're like, that's why all those things had to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, totally. And so what's so special about Anita also, right? Because this program is a couple different things. It's like sacred geometry, but then it's also coupled with Anita really being able to dial into your specific messages from yourself to yourself. Like what can you talk a little bit about that experience?
Yeah. It's the simplest way, it's her energy and who she is. Um, when I first started talking to her and she gave me like my intro reading, I was sitting in a park hearing it and like I had given her like very basic information. Like I gave her like this is my name, my age, like what I'm doing now and like what I want to do and like kind of some frustrations in my life. And the 45 minutes that followed in that reading were just like you shouldn't be knowing this, right? Like how are you so dialed into the uncomfortabilities that I have present in this moment, to the desires that I have, I mean, I was scared a bit. Like there was, it's like that piece of me that was just like, holy shit, like this is different. And I knew it like immediately. And because of how clear it was, I knew like for me, it was like, yes, like this is real. This is different. And something that is like in the reality of this world, to like be able to channel that way and to be able to communicate that way and feel into things like this, right? Like where I don't know, I guess like mysticism is a bit of like a weird space where there's a lot of um I don't know the word, but like beliefs that were like kind of set in stone for the collective.
Hmm.
And so when something different comes along, most people are going to be scared and question and like be defensive against it.
Sure.
Um, but I think there's just a way. What's really special for me about Anita is like how blunt she is, how direct she is, and how it's my experience of like when someone holds you high and when someone is gonna just tell you what you need to hear because they love you and they want to see you rise.
Mm,
Right? Like it's not, I'm going to sugarcoat this. I'm going to, like, this is the way I'm hearing it. So this is the way I'm telling you.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's no like back agenda. There's no, but it's just like, this is it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really invaluable. It's really invaluable. Yeah. I mean, it's like how often are we loved like that, right? Like normally there's filters and there's, you know, fears of communicating too directly, right? And so accurately too. I mean, it's like it's like my sometimes my ego won't want to hear what she's saying, but then I'm like as we were speaking about, it's like, but you're like, oh, but you're right. Actually, you
Yeah.
are. Even though it doesn't seem like it at this exact moment, because I'm fighting with my ego still, like you actually are right.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Like
checks
moments,
out.
moments where I'll hear something she says and I'm just like, I need to pause the message because I'm just like, I am pissed. Like how dare you say that to me or something like that. But at the exact same time, it's like, would I be responding like this if she didn't hit it right on the head?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's there's just like a level of like being very tuned in that way of like understanding it. Like she knows who she is, what she's doing, and I can feel that very clearly to be able to like lean in and trust in all of this. Like, you know, the whole outside world is gonna deny or fight all of this because it doesn't have like the proof for why it works, when really like
It
it's the exact
works.
it's the exact opposite of that. Like it works because you don't have the proof and you trust it and you go off like your internal feeling.
Nice. Yeah. Your true wisdom, right? Your
Yeah.
true. Awesome. So will you give us a little snapshot of, and also I think Pierre's gonna, well, maybe he took Kaya, which would be perfect, actually. Perfect. He did. Will you tell me what do you know now that you didn't know before? Like how has your life transformed? Like give us some wowzers for
Yeah.
about
Oh
that.
my goodness. So I've been I've been working with Anita for about a year now. I think maybe a little bit over a year. But it's been I was doing like meditation teaching and I know that like that's not my calling. I know that my calling is music. And that I get to create and produce and influence for people. And I'm like, I've put out like music out in the world, like in Spotify, SoundCloud, like stepped into that. Like actually tomorrow I'm doing my first DJ event with the woman that I love. And it's a yoga class that she's teaching and I'm DJing for. And before we've even done it, like the last 2 weeks, we're getting like we already have 3 or 4 other opportunities because of it. Like people are like, "Do you want to do this in our space? Like, do you want to do this here?" And it's like you don't even know what this is. Like we haven't even done it yet. Um, I know that like you know I was in a space of like fear around my relationship and like fear of like intimacy and going deeper, and now I'm moving to a house that's a mile away from my girlfriend. I can walk to her place. We've talked about like moving in together, and like her son being part of all of that. Like I think the biggest pieces are like a lot of the places where I was just in fear and avoiding and not looking at are have become doors and like really have become like the doors and the energy that like have just opened up like everything, you know, like I'm it's like moments where I'm like, cool, I have to say this thing to my partner or to my parents or whatever, that like I can feel it so clearly, like this is going to create a mess. like God, like there's nothing more clear in my universe. And it's like I have to say it because that's like my truth and like who I am and my gift to the moment. And yeah, it just leaning in that way. Like it's yeah, I'm it almost feels like too much is happening to like be so specific about it all, you know? Like I'm seeing a lot open up with like music. I got an internship like 2, 3 weeks ago at a recording studio that like I get to learn like the equipment and the setup and like recording and be around music and like really have a door in. And once I'm proficient, I can bring artists in there to like record things at a discount. And like it's just so wild. I'm like I had a conversation with my parents like a couple weeks ago that was like nothing I've ever had with them, where I voiced like all essentially like all my wounds to them and was like, hey, like I need you guys, I'm gonna talk. I need you guys to listen. It's gonna be uncomfortable, but I need you to let me talk from start to finish.
Wow.
Can you do that? And like we did it and I bawled the whole time and I told them everything, like the way you treated me growing up, like it sucked, I'm pissed, I'm angry, like all of this. And they received it, which is something I could have never imagined from both my parents, to be able to hear that. And now where everything is cleaned up, you know, it's like, you know, it's just like those things are still there and they can't change, but it's like the first time in my life I feel I have like a very brand new starting point to step into a relationship with them as like a sovereign adult.
Wow.
Um,
Powerful.
I'm meeting people left and right. Like I'm having, I just, I don't even know. Like half the time. Yeah,
So I mean, what it sounds like to me, listening to you, is that you're really living your passion, your mission, your purpose, and that, because you've stepped into owning like, okay, this is what I'm up to in a really embodied way. Like life is just flowing in a much more beautiful, like you're not trying to figure it out. It's happening through you.
yeah, yeah. It's a lot of accepting like what's here, and using it. You know, it's like the moments and the opportunities like come up, and I feel I'm very clear about like I'm very neutral in these moments and very clear, and I'm like not resisting them, and it's just amazing like how things are just like moving around me and through me and for me. And like I'm just kind of witnessing it all and like moving into things when I know like the feeling inside of me is telling me like, hey, go, like this is your moment. Or when I hear like, hey, I need some more from you,
Mm,
being able to hear that clearly, be like, all right, like I need like go into action, like do the things, and then
yeah.
let things breathe and move. And
Yeah, yeah. So trusting your intuition, I'm hearing, right? Like use terminology that other people might relate to, like really trusting your internal guidance,
yeah,
trusting your authority, trusting your sovereignty, but also understanding that there's going to be uncomfortable times. And what is that essentially your sacred geometry, like letting you know like it's time to take some sort of an action.
yep, yeah, and yeah, being able to like develop that relationship with my like inner guidance, and to like know like, you know, there's for me there's no truth more true than like energy, right? Like you can feel when something feels good or wrong like in you, all around you, and like honoring that and respecting that and like developing that relationship with myself and the energies in me, to know like, you know, even if my brain is telling me like do this thing, do the thing, and like my energy is saying no, that's not it, like that's it. And I don't need like logic or reasons for things. It's very much like it's just trusting like, look, sacred geometry like has a plan. Sacred geometry and the universe like are moving things in a way that like I just can't see right now. But I can feel, right? And I feel like more and more I'm feeling that piece of me develop to like where I can hear it very clearly, and all of a sudden it's just like seeing things gain momentum. And I mean like the last 2 3 weeks, like literally in the last 2 days, new house that I just signed an agreement for, new job that like feels a lot lighter, that's going to open up a lot of chances for music, new internship, like new relationship with myself and my body, like new relationship with like my girlfriend, with my girlfriend's son, um like and opportunities like, and it just feels like the start for all of it, which is like crazy, right? To have gone through so much and feel like I needed this one thing to happen, but all of a sudden it's just like, hey, like here's a door again. And
Wow.
like there's more and there's more for you. Like we got you.
Amazing. Amazing.